Hello to all, welcome to the channel Cloud Knowledge. Today in this video, we'll study about copying of data from Azure SQL database to Fabric Lakehouse and then scheduling the pipeline. So as we have triggers in Data Factory and Synapse, here we have schedule. In Microsoft Fabric, we have it with the name schedule. So let me first show you what we are going to do. So here we have the whiteboard. So the very first thing we are going to do is in the Azure portal, we have SQL database, which has tables. We'll connect to one of these table in Fabric pipeline. So we have Fabric pipeline where we have copy data activity, where the source will be this table of Azure SQL database, and in the destination we have Lakehouse. In the previous videos, we have demonstrated how we have created Lakehouse as well as how the data is stored here. Now, in the Lakehouse, the data has landed from the Azure SQL database. It is in the form of table. Okay, let's say this T1 table is copied here. Now, we will schedule this pipeline. This pipeline is created to copy the data from the Azure SQL database to the Lakehouse. Here we have the option to schedule it. We will schedule it to, let's say, run at every 5 minutes. Okay, in this demo we'll take this with 5 minutes interval, and this table, let's say it has just 5 rows, and in the first execution of this pipeline the 5 rows are copied here. 5 rows are copied here, but here in the source database the data changed. It is now having one more row, then it keeps on adding here. So this incremental data should be added here in the Lakehouse as well. So with the help of this trigger or schedule in Microsoft Fabric, we'll get these new rows here in the Lakehouse. Every time the data is changed, new rows are added. With the next trigger or the schedule run, we'll get that updated data in the Lakehouse. This is what we are going to demonstrate in this video. So let's go to the Fabric. Here we are in the Fabric. We will create a new pipeline, data pipeline. So let's click on data pipeline from your workspace. Our workspace name is Cloud Knowledge Data Factory. We'll click on data pipeline. It will ask us to give the pipeline name. Let's name this as PL copy and schedule. Click on create. At the top left side, we could see the pipeline name, copy and schedule. The pipeline page is loading for us. So this is the first page. Now our job is to add copy activity. So we'll click on add pipeline activity and take copy data from the move and transform section, or we could directly select from here copy data. Okay. So we'll click on copy data. It will come in the canvas. Now the first tab is general. We'll leave it as is. We'll go to the source tab. In the source tab, we have to define the data store type, which will be the workspace, that is the Fabric workspace. It could be external or sample dataset. In our example, it is connecting to Azure SQL database, which is present in Azure portal. So it will be external to the Microsoft Fabric workspace. That's why the data store type will be external. Now next is connection. We will create a new connection to that Azure SQL database. We'll click on plus new, which will open up this page. This new connection will show up the different connectors which we have. We'll go to the Azure section here, and Azure specific connectors will be shown here, the different storage accounts, databases, etc. So we'll select Azure SQL database. We'll click on continue. Now the connection settings with respect to this Azure SQL database will appear. So we have to mention here the server. Specify a server to connect to using the format server port. The port number is optional. So here we have to give the SQL database, Azure SQL database server name and database. So for that purpose, let's quickly go and see the SQL database, Azure SQL database details. So here we'll go to the Azure portal. This is Azure portal, which has the same login as the Fabric. This is the overview page of the SQL database, which we are going to connect in the Fabric. And here on the right side, you can see the server name. So we'll copy this server name and we'll go back here and write here in the connection settings, the server name. Then comes the database name. Database name is this SQL DB. So we'll copy that, paste in the database. Then it will show up the connection credentials as basic. So as I mentioned that the same login is used for both Fabric workspace as well as in the Azure portal, we need not give here explicitly the credentials. If you are using different logins, you can mention the details or the authentication here. Click on OK. As you can see now in the connection, the SQL DB server is connected. Next is connection type. We'll first click on test connection. So connection is successful. Under the connection type, we'll select Azure SQL database. Once we select the connection type, it will open up other options. Use query, table, query, stored procedure. In our example, we'll connect to a table in that SQL database. So let's go back to the Azure portal. Here is another tab where I have opened the query editor and the different tables which are present inside this database. So we are going to connect to this dbo.comsum. If we select the content of this table, it has 4 rows and 2 columns. Okay, we can see employee related data is present, ID and salary. We'll connect to this comsum table. If we go back here, the table option is selected, and if we click on this drop down of the table, we'll get this table name, right? CumSum. So we have this table dbo.comsum here. We'll connect to this table. Now we'll click on advanced. We need not make any change here. Now we'll go to the destination part. In the destination part, we want the data store type to be Lakehouse. So we'll let the option be selected as workspace, then workspace data store type. Among the 3 options, we are going to land it into our Lakehouse. So we'll select Lakehouse only. Then which Lakehouse we want to land the table content. So we'll select from the drop down CK Lakehouse, which we have created in our earlier videos. So we'll select CK Lakehouse. Once we select the Lakehouse, it will ask us root folder, whether tables or files. So we'll let this option be tables only. So since we have selected CK Lakehouse, let's take a look at the CK Lakehouse. Here we are in the Lakehouse which we had created earlier. This is CK Lakehouse. It will have this overview page where the Lakehouse name will be given, the table section and the file section. So here in the table section, we want to get the table content of the CumSum table to appear or to be copied. So we'll go back here. We'll let the root folder settings be selected as tables. Then here we are going to click on the table name as edit and provide the table name. So it will be CumSum. Okay. Then we'll go to the advanced section. In the advanced section, it will ask us the table action, whether you want to append the data, that is append new values to existing table, or you want to overwrite. So if we click on append, then let's say 5 rows or 4 rows are copied in the first scheduled run. In this example, we are going to overwrite. We'll click over the table action as overwrite because we want the complete data to be loaded afresh in the Lakehouse. Okay, so this is done. In the destination level, mappings and settings will be as is. So now we'll validate the pipeline. It's validated and we'll click on run. If we click on run, it will ask us to save and execute. Save and run. We'll click on save and run. Pipeline is executing. You can see here it's queued. If we click on refresh, it's in progress. It succeeded. Okay. So here in the activity, we can see the settings which we have configured at the source level and the sink level, and in the output, the data written to the target. Now we'll go to this tab where the Lakehouse page is open, and we'll click on, in front of this table section, we have this 3 dots. We'll click on refresh from this 3 dots section, and we can see here unidentified row is appearing. Now we'll again click on refresh. And now we can see the CumSum table is appearing here. So we'll click on this CumSum. It is loading the preview here. So the data of the CumSum table is loaded here. It is having 2 columns and 4 rows. This looks fine. The data is copied from the Azure SQL database to Fabric Lakehouse. Let's go back to the pipeline. Here we are in the pipeline. So at the top, you can see after the run, there's an option called schedule. If we click over schedule, it will display us this page where it will mention the data pipeline name at the top. Then 4 sections here: about, sensitivity label, endorsement, and schedule. Important section is this schedule. By default, it will open up the schedule section. And here in this section, if we see, the first option is schedule run. So currently, by default, it is off. We'll click on on. Once we click it on, the next option is repeat. That is to select the frequency, whether it should run by the minutes, hourly, daily, or weekly. So in this example, since we have to quickly see the changes in the data, we'll select it by the minute. You can set this schedule frequency as per your requirement. We'll select it by the minute. If we select minute, it will ask us how many minutes. Let's give it as 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, execute this pipeline for me. Now the next option is start and end. That is MMDDYY. We'll click over the calendar symbol here. So here, we'll select on today's date, 23rd, and the time be default, that is current time. It is selected now. Now the end time will select today's date and will increase the time, let's say to 1 hour. It was 11, select it as 12 and 3 p.m. let's say. Okay. So at 12 hours, 3 minutes, and so at 12 hours, 3 minutes in PM, that is after 1 hour, stop this pipeline execution. That is, this schedule should stop. Let this be, so start and time is selected. Time zone, let it be default. You can change it as per your region and click on apply. So this is applied. We'll just exit this page here. Then after this schedule, we have this view run history when this pipeline ran. So currently in the Lakehouse, we could see the 4 rows added and we have scheduled this pipeline. If we open the schedule option again, we could see that it is scheduled. In the meantime, we'll go to the Azure portal here into the query section and we'll insert a new row into this table. Insert into CumSum table, values, employee ID and salary. Let the employee ID be this time 50 and salary be 145. Okay, we'll just click on run. Query succeeded, affected 1 rows, and if we execute here, run, we could see a new row is added in this table. And now if we go back to the Fabric workspace, now let's go to another tab of the workspace. We'll click on refresh. And now we'll apply a filter to the data pipelines. At the right side, we could see a filter option. We'll just select the data pipeline so that we could see the PL, copy and schedule pipeline here. It is showing us PL, copy and schedule pipeline, which we have created just now. And here in front of this pipeline, we have these 3 dots where we could see the details of this pipeline. We could delete it. We have some settings. We can add it to favorite. Lineage, we can see details, schedule, recent runs. So if we click on recent runs option, we could see that it got executed twice at 10:56 and 11:06. The 10:56 run was the manual run. As soon as we created the pipeline, we saved it and we executed it, right? So this was that run. The next run is the schedule run. At 11:06 is the run done by the schedule option, which we had configured for that pipeline. We'll wait for another 5 minutes and see the next run. So currently it has only 4 rows. And since we have added the data here, that is this new row recently, we'll wait for the next schedule run. Let's close this. 5 minutes have passed. We'll again go here to the pipeline, 3 dots, and here we click on recent runs. We can see here that the pipeline executed at 11:11 That is after 5 minutes again it executed. And we'll go to the CK Lakehouse. We'll click on refresh. And here we could see another row of CumSum table is added. We'll just click on table, refresh. It's gone. Let's refresh the browser page. The changes are not getting reflected here because the Lakehouse page is not refreshed. Browser page is refreshing and it is loading the CumSum table details now for us. And now after the browser refresh, the table details are showing us the new row here as well in the Lakehouse. The refresh at this section in the Explorer, the tables level or at the individual tables level is not showing up the updated data. So as of now, we have to click on the browser refresh to see the updated rows here in the Lakehouse. As this product, Microsoft Fabric, is newly launched and continuously evolving, we could expect that this refresh would also work very soon. And if we go back to the pipeline, here in the pipeline page also we have this option view run history to see at what all times this pipeline executed. So it executed at 11:16 too. Let's quickly go to the Azure portal and add another row. We'll name it as, let's say, 60 this time, and the salary be 1000, and we'll select this, insert query and run. Now we'll see the contents of the table and the result will have this new row added with employee ID 60. Let's go back here and wait for another scheduled run to happen after this recent run. And then we'll go to the Lakehouse and refresh this entire Lakehouse page to see if the new row with employee ID 60 is also added. Let's come back after 5 minutes. So 5 minutes have crossed. We'll close this and again click on view run history. It will show up another row, that is 11:21 AM execution run. And you can see at the right side, the status is not started. It shows up here, but it has not started or completed. Let's wait for another minute. Let's click again on view run history and now the status shows as completed here. So we'll go back to the CK Lakehouse. And since we know that as of now in the product, the refresh at the table level is not working, once we click on refresh at the browser level and then see the contents of the CumSum table, we'll see the employee ID row which was added as 60. Yeah, we could see here 60 now. So yeah, the refresh is currently not working in Lakehouse. Probably we'll see this feature very soon in the Lakehouse. So as of now, we could just go with the option of refreshing the entire browser page and we could see the fresh data landed here. So in this example, by these two extra runs, we could see that these two rows were added here in the target, that is in the Fabric Lakehouse, this new row 50 and 60. So in this way, scheduled run works. That is, we connected to an external source in Azure portal to Azure SQL database, and if the source data is changing, and in the copy activity, we have the table action selected as overwrite. That is, it is overwriting the data. So the new rows are also getting added in the Lakehouse. And when the data pipeline gets executed with the help of the schedule run, new rows which are added in the source are also getting loaded into the target. That is in the workspace Lakehouse. So in this example, we have studied how we can copy the data from the SQL database to Fabric Workspace Lakehouse. Next, we studied about the schedule run, how we can schedule that pipeline to execute after every 5 minutes, how to view the run history here from the pipeline level and at the workspace level 2. And at the workspace level 2, we have seen how we can see the details. Then we have also studied that if the source data is changing, the same data is getting copied to the Fabric Workspace 2 with the help of the schedule run of those pipelines which we have configured. Okay. I hope you have got the understanding of this whole scenario of copying and then scheduling the pipeline. Do let me know in comments if you face any challenge in scheduling the pipelines. Thank you for watching the video. Happy learning. Bye.